When you think about a company trying to go global, what do you think the biggest hurdle is? Is it tariffs? Logistics? Nope. It's something invisible. Something that can literally make or break your success before you even get off the ground. And that's something? It's trust. Okay, let's just dive right in with a story that's, well, it's pretty powerful. Imagine this. You've poured your heart and soul into building a company, and then someone tells you that to be seen as trustworthy, you have to change its name just so it sounds not so Mexican. I mean, that's a real quote from a real CEO. And it perfectly captures this hidden challenge so many entrepreneurs face when they try to expand. So what this story really highlights is this invisible cost. Let's call it a trust tax. It's this extra hurdle that entrepreneurs from certain countries have to clear just to get to the same starting line as everyone else. And it's all based on perception. And believe me, this isn't a one-off thing. This trust tax, it shows up again and again. Here's another example. A CEO who has to constantly reassure potential customers that her company, which is from Mexico, can actually deliver on time. She's fighting a stereotype that her competitors from, say, the US or Germany, they probably don't even have to think about it for a second. So when you look at these stories, you start to see a clear pattern of challenges, right? We're talking about being second-guessed all the time, fighting these negative stereotypes about being slow or dishonest, and always feeling like you have to overcompensate just to prove you're legitimate. And what's really crucial to understand is this has nothing to do with the quality of their product or service. It is 100% about perception. Okay, so let's get a little more specific. What are we really talking about when we say trust in a business sense? It's not just some warm, fuzzy feeling. The textbook definition is really about a willingness to be vulnerable. And think about it. If you're a potential client dealing with a company from a country with a different legal system, a different culture, your sense of vulnerability goes way, way up. And for that entrepreneur, overcoming that fear is the whole game. All right, so we've heard some powerful anecdotes, but are they just stories, or is this part of a much bigger, measurable global pattern? To figure that out, we've got to zoom out and look at the hard data. So there was this huge study. They looked at 6 years of data from 88 different countries. And what they wanted to know was this: does a country's level of institutional trust, stuff like having reliable courts, secure property rights, low corruption, does that stuff actually impact whether or not its entrepreneurs can succeed internationally? And the results? Whoa. They showed this massive divide, a real tale of two worlds. For small or medium businesses in developing countries, having that strong institutional trust back home was a crucial factor for going global. It was a huge predictor of success. But for businesses in developed countries, it wasn't even a factor. It's just taken for granted. It's like they have a permanent home field advantage baked right in. Okay, so this brings up a really logical question, right? If you're an entrepreneur from a country that's considered a low-trust environment, maybe the ones who make it on the global stage are just built differently. Maybe they're naturally more trusting people themselves, more optimistic, more willing to take a leap of faith. It's a pretty reasonable theory. So a new survey was done with over 100 business owners in Mexico to put that exact idea to the test. They compared the ones who only worked domestically to the ones who had gone international. And what they found was, well, kind of surprising. Actually, it was fascinatingly flat. When they asked questions like, do you think most people can be trusted? The scores between the domestic-only entrepreneurs and the international ones were almost exactly the same. The difference was so small, it was statistically meaningless. So that whole idea, the theory that international entrepreneurs are just more trusting by nature, the data pretty much busts that myth. It's not about their personality. So if it's not that, something else must be going on. And if it's not about how trusting the entrepreneur is, then what is the key? Well, this question brings us right to the absolute core insight of this whole thing. Let's just let that sink in for a second. The entire problem gets flipped on its head. It's not about an internal trait, like your personality. It's about an external perception. It's not about being trusting. It's about being trusted. And this is exactly how the successful companies approach it, strategically. There's this great formula for trustworthiness, and one company in this study, an IT firm, actually made it a core part of their company culture. They focused on being credible, being reliable, building real intimacy with their clients, all while making it clear they weren't just in it for themselves. It's an active, deliberate process for building trustworthiness. You see how this just completely reframes the solution? It's no longer about trying to change your personality. It's about changing your strategy. It's about deliberately taking actions that signal to the world, hey, you can trust me. So, what does that actually look like in the real world? Well, it comes down to concrete actions. We're talking about actively strengthening your networks by going to trade missions and meeting people face to face. It's about enhancing transparency, adopting governance standards that show you're reliable. You got to share your success stories to build that reputation. It's all about investing in the right training and information. These aren't just vague ideas. They are the pillars of a real strategy. And that really brings us to the final takeaway here. Whether you're a business owner, an employee, or heck, even a policymaker, it really helps to stop thinking of trust as just a feeling. Think of it as trust capital. It's an asset, something you can invest in, build, and grow over time. So the question I'll leave you with is, how are you building your trust capital?